Three, two, one. Hello everybody and welcome to another industry waffle or ramble, and I'm Paul, and today we have another special guest. This one I know rather well and none of you know rather well, so would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Harry Bransell. I'm the contracts manager for C2C working for Ramble Building Services, and I work alongside Paul.
And we thought we'd take a break from looking at screens and have a little bit of a ramble to talk about the industry, because part of these videos, or what we're trying to do, is show people that everybody does have similar issues. You know, when people sit in a workplace and they have lots and lots of challenges and issues with the industry or problems, that a problem shared sometimes can be a problem solved. So what would you say I mean, tell us about your background in the industry before we get into all the questions.
My background, so I originally came in as an apprentice electrician, spent many years working schools, lots of houses, doing house bashing back and forth. Then went to do a lot of work in London, working every day at the crack of dawn in pubs, doing pub refurbs, which was a lot of hard work, quick installs, did a lot of mechanical stuff. After a while I sort of put myself through the qualifications, testing 2391, etc., and then got offered a job in the evenings teaching at West Herts College, which I did for 1 year as a teaching assistant, and then I did for another year as a teacher, just in the workshop, which was interesting. That was sort of another eye-opener as well, because like I say, I think something we've discussed before about the quality of the colleges.
Yeah.
And then from that I got offered a job to come and work for Ramble Building Services, which I spent a year on the tools with them, and then sort of got picked up of having something about you and wanting to be a little bit more and to develop myself and to just sort of get involved with the company and come in the office more, a bit more office based. From there, gone on leaps and bounds. I've been doing a MBA for the last 3 years, which I've just finished and hopefully passed. And then come on to work with you on your contract yourself, contract managing. Yeah,
so Harry's new to the route, new to the contract, which is good, because it's a dynamic route, it's a dynamic contract, there's lots to do. Henceforth, we barely get any spare time other than lunch breaks where we sit filming ourselves with iPhones and microphones, and you're sitting here going, what is this strange client? He's the client, he can do what he wants. But yeah, so I'm Harry's client, but we operate very much a one-team principle. So we're sat at the same desk in the same office, where the Sparks can come in and do work. We've got copies of the regs book and whiteboards for people to scribble notes and look at ideas and how we can do things better, because it's a challenging route, isn't it? There's a hell of a lot to do. So what do you think though? Because you obviously, I started off with electrical contracting as well. I worked in a small company that are now huge, and worked my way through other contractors, EDF being one of them. What do you think is the biggest challenge that electrical contractors have at this moment in time?
At the moment,
what's hard about being an electrical contractor?
One of the hard things at the moment is the technology and
yep.
the increase. Everything's moving so quick, smart technology, Internet of Things, everything being connected and staying up to date with that, because everybody's got a new gadget they want to install, and usually it's bought off of Amazon.
Well,
and
me.
Yeah, and a lot of time the customer will buy something and go, can you fit this? And you'll look at it and go, well, I wouldn't like to fit it. But from a contractor's point of view, something we've talked about before, it's very difficult to provide a good service sometimes, because everybody thinks that they know how much everything costs, because everything's so publicly knowledgeable now, and they'll quickly go on Google, Amazon, I can buy that for £50 cheaper than you're providing it for me, and I think you're ripping me off. And
that's a valid point actually, because you're right, because we've installed some mind-boggling smart tech at the moment, and probably one of the things that we've had to realise in our pricing is there's the unit cost of something, but then there's also the cost and the time of the guy who has to learn how to develop it. Now, the electrical industry, one of the biggest problems is and anyone in management or construction or infrastructure, when you get your Sparkies, they can run a cable or cable management A to B better than anybody. That's not the hard bit. The hard bit's always the management, the costing, the design, the development of the chaps, because not every electrician or electrical installer knows everything about everything. And the first time we commissioned the first Schneider board, we had to bring Schneider down to the railway to teach one of our best guys. So one of our best guys had to be taught by the manufacturer how to install stuff. So when a client is specifying some smart kit, the manufacturers have to go on a journey with the client and the installer, and the client needs to realise that when they're paying the money. Our first board wasn't cheap, but it was a journey and a learning curve that I think we're going to be on for some time, because we're rolling out more and more as we go along. We are doing more of them.
And it's an investment from the manufacturers. If they want, at the end of the day, the person selling their equipment isn't always designers, it's the electrician who will say, I like that bit of kit, I recommend you have this because it's good stuff, it's easy to fit, it's good to work with, it's not a pain in the backside to put together, and they know how it works and it actually does something worthwhile, not just a new bit of tech, oh that's shiny and nice to have, it'll be a fad and be over with in a couple of weeks.
And it is, I'll be honest with you, in this role especially, I've realised how hard it is for contractors pricing, because unless a client defines every minutiae of what they want, when you get a detailed specification, you can line item price that, you can then apportion a reasonable amount of labour, you can then apportion an element of risk, and then your general operating overheads, and that's fine. You can develop programs and you can go and deliver the work. But when your company do reactive 24/7 and small works and bigger works, building refurbishments, etc., and it always starts with the client and the client's ability to develop a full scope of works. Now, in that respects, it's kind of lucky that we work and are going to be working more closer together, so that we can come to a common understanding of expectations, standards, products. But it's a dual thing, isn't it? I need to realise that I need to do more to support you guys, because I look at our contractors. My failure is your failure, and your failure is my failure. If that makes any sense, if you know what I mean. But also there's the development of the contractors. So how many clients out there watching this think about, I need to help develop my contractors? Because they don't. And I'll tell you why. Because most clients, when they go to procurement, they say, I need electrical work done. They'll go, great, let's get an electrical contractor. And that electrical contractor will come fully belt and braced with all the knowledge of everything. Rubbish. You are going to fail before you even pick up the phone to your electrical contractor, because not all electrical contractors do, let's be perfectly frank, because you're absolutely bang on what you said earlier. The progression of smart technology is brain melting out there now. And a lot of manufacturers wanted to sell direct to clients, which then kind of bypasses the installers, which can cause problems. Now, you've recently done a small bit of lighting for me, where you proposed the lights and you knew everything there was to know about those lights and the control and the abilities and the technology, because you'd worked with the manufacturer to develop and grow your knowledge and your competence on it. And that's sometimes where things can fail. So if you're procuring an electrical contractor, don't expect just because they're NIC registered or the ECA registered or they're registered and they've got lots of badges like, safe contractor and all the rest of it, that means a quality product. It's a journey you have to take on with the guys, and your costings must allow for, if they've done it before, no problem, they should be experts in it. And cabling, let's be honest about it, if you're an electrical contractor, cable management, it's a given. Put up a light, fine. But when you start introducing the smarter side of technology, the Internet of Things, the connectivity, the self-aware, self-monitoring technology, we're currently in an environment now where lights can monitor, lighting levels, air temperatures, gas levels, all sorts of stuff within the components. Now, all of this smart tech needs to be taught and shared. Now, the manufacturers probably need to do more. I think that's fairly evident. But also maybe clients and electrical contractors need to do more to make their own awareness there. The biggest problem is, how many of your blokes can you let off to go on training courses every day of the week?
Well, this is the issue, and the problem is, when you have a training course, the simplest way to do it is to book a training course and send the guys on it. But then you send the entire team on a training course, and something comes up, you've got no one available, so then you have to do it in bits and pieces and split them up. It's difficult,
you do.
It's disjointed, you've got some people that have got the training, some that haven't, some that sometimes will forget and not turn up, which is another headache, and it's a lot of planning and processes, and it's the guys having the willingness to understand why they're doing the training course in the first place, is to actually learn a new skill, not to turn up, sit there, get through the day, get a bit of paper and go, yeah, I've got that now, can I carry on what I was doing before, and forget it within a week.
When I was on the tools, if I ever got offered a course, I would move heaven and earth to the point where I would be there outside at 4 a.m. in the morning waiting to go on that course. But that's another thing. I mean, with courses now as well, especially the training sector, you send guys on courses, and a lot of the training sector at the moment is teaching them to pass an exam, not to use the knowledge. And that is a scary thing for me in what I do. But for you, I mean, how do you even try and approach that sort of thing? I mean, what do you think there's anything electrical contractors can do about it?
It's hard. Even with getting your ticket as an electrician and everything, and any kind of qualification, it's similar to driving a car. Once you've got your license, you're safe to be in a car. But you don't really learn to drive properly in the roads until you've been out and do it. So, and it's that willingness to learn is something that having. Working where we are now with recruiting and employing people, trying to find someone that genuinely wants to understand and learn the trade they're in, and not just turn up for the day, do 8 hours and go home and that'll do kind of attitude, and to be having invested interest in what they do and to be able to look at their work and want to develop themselves. And then it's a double-sided coin at those that then put themselves out and train themselves up to the hill, learn all that technology, then get stuck in a position they think, well, I'm actually now overeducated for the role I'm in, and they want to move on. And then you're struggling to try and keep those people, and then you have the issue with the ones which are always better and putting themselves out are the ones that then by default get picked on, of get them to do it because they know it, and then you'll get stuck in that divide of the people that do the day-to-day and the people that try more and sometimes don't feel like they get appreciated for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird dynamic, isn't it? I mean, I've met guys who I, for one, could not be an old boy spark. I love the old boy sparks, by the way, but I couldn't do one because I've got arthritis. So I always knew at an early age I would need to get off the tools. And I can't understand guys who don't come to work with enthusiasm, but I've been on so many sites where you go on big sites like even Excel and all sorts where I was on there. A lot of the guys are very, bitter or angry or feel down and depressed, whether it's personal issues, which, let's be honest, that construction industry years ago wasn't very sensitive to, mental health awareness, which is terrible. But guys, you're right, you get like that, I need someone to do testing, oh, he does testing, and it's all on one poor bloke who's then strained and stressed out, where the other blokes don't want the stress or the strain unless there's a financial incentive. They do the easy stuff. And also, there are guys who just want to turn up, do 7 hours a day, do the minimum, not stand out, and that's fine. But our industry is in dire need of good guys who can be site managers, project engineers, project managers, contract managers. There's not enough good ones out there. Trust me, I've met some absolute horrors. You're one of the good ones, by the way. Just put it on camera. He's very good. So don't ring him up and steal him. But there are some horrors out there who don't know that they don't know. And it's, how does the industry... Some contractors will just go, oh, I've got a terrible contract manager or terrible project engineer. It is what it is. And that's fine. But if they're not developing them, then that just becomes a cost to the client. It becomes a cost to the industry. It becomes a rework cost, or worst case scenario, a safety hazard later on.
There's sometimes that fear of when you're in a position, you're in a room and you don't know something. It's very rare someone will say, I don't know that. What we're talking about, I have no understanding. And then because what you end up with is everybody going, oh yeah, oh yeah, we'll do that. Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah, that's fine. They walk out the room and go, I don't have a clue what we're talking about then. And that might be something very important. But it's almost out of like peer pressure or something, like being at school and not being the only one in the room that didn't know. But sometimes you might find in that room of, say, 8 people talking about something, only the one person that brought it up, sometimes yourself, will actually know what you're talking about, and everyone else will be nodding their heads. And then everyone walks out the room thinking everybody knows, but nobody knows.
So I left college not knowing what equipotential was. I did my part 2 and I left not knowing. There's a bit of a confession there, actually. It was only when I did my 2391 with a guy called Graham Moulds in Wickford. And he was an old boy, wonderful old man, and he bounced around the room, he must have been 60 odd, with such passion and enthusiasm that he made cogs turn and click. And this is the trouble with our industry, you can't teach people something immediately. You have to sow the seeds of knowledge and let it grow. And this is the whole point of my view on competence is the first step of competence is having the ability to know you don't know. or you can't do something. That's step one for me. Your skills will come from the training you receive and the application of that training and knowledge over time. That develops the skills. Your awareness of your ability to do something is then your awareness, I can do this, I can do it well and safely and repetitively do it to the point where you're so good at it you can show other people. That to me is the journey of competence, but not forgetting, even if you're really good at doing pipe work or trunking, that you get to something brand new and you just got to go, somebody's invented a new hybrid of cable tray and basket and trunking. I don't know how to do this. But your passion inside of you will make you want to learn. And I think the industry at the moment, guys go on courses just to pass.
Yeah.
Not to learn how to use the blue book in the electrical industry. It's past the 18th edition exam, and there's a perception out there that, oh great, he's and the agencies are so guilty for it. He's 18th edition qualified. Does he know how to use the book? Because all that exam is can you pick up the wiring rigs book? And how many electricians own a copy of the book? Not that many. Not in industrial.
A lot of people, especially in house specialty and that, it becomes unneeded. The only time you ever do it if you're doing a long run of armoured, and because you'll go in and they'll go, oh yeah, ring mains 2.5, lighting's 1.5, that's all we use. Don't need to know anymore. They don't think. And even with the testing and inspecting, like you say, that there's always, well, I don't do the testing, he does. But then the problem with that is, unless you're filling out those certificates regularly, you don't know what the items are you need to be looking for, and all the specifics of why you're doing this. And then if you've got someone coming in that does the wiring and another person does the testing, there's that gap of, well, how did they wire that? How did they connect this? How did they do that?
You could say that competence is the repetitive action of doing something well, almost. So if you're not doing something repeatedly, like inspection, so we're not competent on testing anymore, because me and you are not doing testing anymore, so we're not competent to test anymore. We're rusty as hell. Although in fairness, with most things, when you're a spark, once a spark, always a spark, you'd get good at it, but there is that bringing back up of competence. Testing was my favourite thing in the world because it got my brain cells going bonkers. And the more I learned, the more I realised that it wasn't being done properly, or corners were being cut, or QSs sat in an office going, yeah, you don't have to worry about that, you don't have to worry about that, do 4 houses in a day, or do a building in like 5 minutes, just put a mega across it and 1 earth loop and the rest is bingo calling. Drive-bys, as some people call. So yeah, I think it's fairly evident there is a competence issue in the industry. I'm lucky in respects of I have Hollywell, because Hollywell are, as you can probably tell, very consciously competent. You're aware of your own abilities.
And it's understanding what you can't do and trying to improve that and fill that gap in one way or another.
And that is definitely the journey. The journey is definitely always going through competence. I mean, I'm learning stuff from them, which is good, because as a client I'm not always right, and Harry's always been told, and I'll tell you on camera if I'm wrong, say, oi Paul, shut the bleep up. So you should have that relationship with your clients. But I'm going to slightly diverge now from this, and I want to ask you the most difficult question ever asked in the electrical industry, ever. Okay, many people have been asked, some have failed. So it's very simple. If you had to choose Star Wars or Star Trek? You had to pick one. You go to an island, that's it. It's Star Wars or Star Trek forever. Nothing else. Which one would you pick?
Oh, you've got me.
Come on.
Star Wars is more fun, I would say.
Yeah, it is fun actually.
It's more fun. Lightsabers swinging around, dancing around, etc. Star Trek is more of your soap opera style. Day to day. It depends how long you're stuck on the island for.
There's no Pat Butcher on Star Trek, but yeah.
If you're stuck on the island for 50 years, at least you've got like a 10 series box set to watch.
Yeah. See, I'm a Star Trek Deep Space Nine person myself. There are other people around the industry who are Star Wars fans. But no, it's good. One of the last people I asked, they'd never even watched it. So where can you even go with that?
Deep Space Nine was a bit of a niche series. Not everybody liked it.
I loved it. I think that was why I loved it so much, because it was just different. It was a refreshing breakaway, and it was more stable, and I liked it was a diverse community coming together. It's really weird that Star Trek was showing people how they should behave years before we now have all the muggings and stabbings and killings, but yet in Star Trek they're all aliens. They all get together, they all work together, they're all good mates and pals. But hey, you can't get everything you want in life. So just back on one thing I want to talk to you about. If you could improve the electrical industry, or because you're a tier 2 contractor, but you're also a principal contractor as well. Mm-hmm. What would you say, very quickly, is the hardest thing about winning work?
The hardest thing at the moment is the problem we've had this previously is that not everybody tenders the same job. So you'll get a spec and a scope of work.
If you're lucky, if it's any good.
But I would say 90% of all the scopes and the specs I've had that I've tendered for were not very good. Missing information, it was hidden. There'll be one thing on a drawing that's very important that isn't in the spec. The spec won't have the details, you'll be missing drawings. And there's always a caveat in the end of a tender. If there's anything you feel we have missed, please add it here. And stuff that we've been penalised for before is we go, right, well, this is missing, you've missed this section. If you wanted to actually get a supply there's another 200 metre dig to go across, which will need ducting and being put in properly. Every 30 metres you'll need a turning chamber. And you add all that in, and miraculously your cost, you're like, oh, we're about £80,000 more expensive than the other person. You'll lose the tender, and then at the end of the programme and it's all finished and job, there was a lot of additions on that cost. How much? Well, about £80,000 worth of stuff we didn't realise what it was. And it's very difficult to be competitive. And it gets to a point that what you end up having to do is price the very bare minimum, exactly what is on that specification, and then you end up writing a 3-page cover letter to say that we haven't allowed for this, we haven't allowed for this, we haven't allowed for that, which isn't really right. It's kind of I would say that with there being so much technology now and everything's instant and everything's get it out quick, that there's not enough time spent on scoping works and thinking it through of how it's going to be done properly to give a proper schedule of works that you could say to a contractor, this is what we want to do, this is what we're doing, this is the kit we want, it's already been design's here for you, ready to go, price this piece of work, and that's what we're going to store it. And if it's different, that is an addition, rather than we would like to, I don't know, build this building and put those stuff on, give us a price for it, and then you go, okay, what kind of lights do you want? Oh, that's up to you. Okay, well, what kind of attainment do you want? Oh, you tell us. What's the supply characteristics coming in? Oh, we don't know, do a survey. And then you could spend 3 weeks scoping and pricing and tendering a job, and you don't win it. And then you find out that the other person who did win it didn't even go to site to check it, but they had the lowest number at the bottom of the tick sheet. And that's what seems to be everybody's motivation these days is you'll put a massive tender in about this big and it goes to procurement and they'll go, right, straight to the back, they're cheapest, get them in for an interview, you'll do the job.
Yeah,
that's the biggest problem. But it's never cheaper because whatever's missing in that has to be done eventually. But once that contractor is in that position, they're 60% through the works and they go, we're out of money, and then you've got half a job. But if you look through our specifications we've done, we didn't actually allow for that, and it wasn't in your tender package. So we can do that for you, but that's going to be an extra inflated cost because now we've got an open checkbook because we're in bed with the project, and you can kick us off if you want to, but it's going to cost you more money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good. The construction industry.
And it's from both sides, really.
It is.
Contractors which should be providing that information, should be providing that expertise to people and to the client to say to the procurement team and to the people developing that you do realise this scope isn't right and getting those information early.
I think there's a liability on the client to consciously procure a contractor that, yes, gives them value, but value doesn't mean the cheapest must win. Mm-hmm. Value is this person read and understood the requirements correctly and will deliver it for the best possible price, and where there's a saving to be made they will offer that up openly and in an honest manner. That to me is value to a client. If we priced a job for 100 grand and if you came back to me and said, you know what, Paul, actually we can do that 20 grand cheaper, wow, that to me is value. That's value in a supply chain and value in
not have that 20 grand back, but okay, well, we can upgrade the spec on this project then. We can make it better.
We can give you an
give
extended
extras,
asset life. Yeah, absolutely. We can go and make sure there's no tide marks, or absolutely. And I think the constructions, you look at major projects nowadays, they spend years developing the scopes of work, but they're so big, they're so onerous, that the contractors come back with such huge inflated prices. Once they're awarding the contracts, they then, if they have a fallout or something goes wrong, either a contractor gets slightly undermined and screwed over, or they then leave, but it costs the client more. So sometimes you just can't win no matter what you do. And I personally think clients should be directly procuring. I mean, we're lucky in the respects of we procure you guys direct, and there's no middleman because you can act as a principal contractor in a tier 2. But I suppose it depends on the project, the client, the infrastructure, the size, the cost, and all the rest of it. And someone's knocking on the door trying to interrupt us. So we'll end this now. You've just walked into a live broadcast, but never mind. It's all right, come in, stick. No, it's not a live broadcast, I'm only winding you up. So our other contracts manager has walked into the video. Say your name and say hello.
Hi, my name's Graham.
No, go, come in. So stick your red right in.
Hello, my name's Graham Colesill, pleased to meet you.
Who do you work for?
Holywell Building Services.
Great, there you go. So we're gonna end this. So thank you very much, Harry. Thank you very much for interrupting,
You're welcome.
and we'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourself and each other.
See ya. Bye.
That's that. I hope I recorded it.